With liberty and justice for all. This bronze sculpture measures 60 inches tall and 36 inches wide. It is a bas-relief, which means it is meant to be viewed from just the front. It is the official flag of the Washington County Justice Center, St. George, Utah. Let's see how it was made. It began as a maquette, a small size to show the client so they can give art direction and make the changes they want to. Once the client approves the small piece, we are ready to enlarge it, or in foundry language, point it up to the finished size. Industrial styrofoam is attached to a backing with hot glue. We work vertically at this stage to assess size, composition, the proportions of the stars and stripes, and the drapery of the flag. The styrofoam is carved with a serrated knife that has been heated with a blowtorch. The hot knife cuts through the styrofoam like butter and leaves a sealed edge. The finished styrofoam armature looks like the original maquette, only big. It is ready to be covered with clay. I am dangerous with a hot glue gun, filling in the holes. To help the warmed clay adhere, I spray paint the styrofoam and then I go prune the roses until it is dry. The clay is not water-based clay that dries. It is oil-based clay and it never dries. It is warmed to make it soft. The armature is covered. The whole styrofoam base is covered in clay. The blank clay is finished and I'm ready to begin making decisions. How many stripes are there? How wide? How to sculpt the difference between red and white stripes? How many stars? How much room do they take? How do I make them all the same and arrange them accurately? Polishing and perfecting the clay. Working on a bird. This sculpted bird sits on the top of the flag. It represents the concept of liberty, with liberty and justice for all. The top edge begins with a thought, with liberty. The bottom edge finishes the thought, and justice for all. The clay has been approved by the client, and we are ready for a careful trip to Springville, Utah, to Bear Bronze Foundry. First step, clay sculpture, is done. The first thing to do at the foundry is make a rubber mold. This begins with aluminum strips attached to the clay, which separate sections into workable sizes. Each section will be cast separately and reassembled later. Liquid silicone rubber is brushed on. A well-made rubber mold can be used many times. Many layers of rubber are built up over the clay sculpture. In the front, we see a plaster and hemp mother mold. It is spread over the rubber mold and dries rigid. It supports the floppy rubber mold. The rubber mold is pulled off the clay. The clay is no longer necessary and is destroyed or returned to the artist. All the details of the original clay are now in the rubber mold and will be in the finished bronze. Second step, rubber mold is done. After the rubber mold, the next step is to make an exact copy of that section in wax. Liquid wax poured into the rubber mold will recreate the original clay sculpture. The rigid mother mold, the white edge, holds the floppy, detailed pink rubber mold and is covered with the liquid wax. Wax sprues will melt from the heat of the molten bronze and become tunnels to direct the molten bronze where it needs to go. Adding bolts now will prevent the wax from cracking and strengthen the ceramic mold. The first step was clay sculpture, the second step was the rubber mold, the third step, the wax copy, is finished. The next step is a ceramic mold. This is the wax copy taken from the rubber mold. It has been dipped in liquid ceramic clay, which will be baked in a kiln later. The wax will melt and run off, leaving an empty, hard ceramic clay mold. Each piece will be dipped in ceramic slurry and covered with a rain of ceramic sand many times. 7 to 10 layers of wet ceramic slurry followed by the dry ceramic sand will create an ever thicker and thicker ceramic mold, giving it the strength to hold the molten bronze. Dipping the piece again, notice the bolts and the sprues which give it strength and tunnels for the melted wax to run off later. At the top is the opening that the molten bronze will be poured into. Dip into the liquid ceramic clay, sand, hang to dry, repeated many times. Dip, sand, hang to drip and dry. The wax copy is inside of this ceramic mold. It is completely covered with ceramic clay and laid on the shelves to dry completely. Note the fans. When they are dry, they are ready to go into the furnace, the kiln, to be baked. This is the lost wax method. It is an ancient process still used today. In the heat of the kiln, the wax copy melts and runs out, leaving a hollow, hard ceramic mold. Only a baked ceramic mold can withstand molten metal. Ceramic mold done. Each ceramic mold is now an empty shell. Inside is every detail of the original sculpture. Outside, it looks like a wasp's nest. Water is poured into the empty mold to measure the amount of molten bronze required. 1,400 degrees. Hot liquid bronze is poured from the crucible where it was heated and melted into the equally hot, empty ceramic mold. After everything cools down, the ceramic mold is smashed and broken off. All the pieces of the sculpture will fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. Metal chasers are the ones who restore the texture that the artist created in the original clay. After the pieces are fit back together where they belong, they are welded, and the metal chaser makes the seams invisible. After the bronze is cooled, pounded, welded, burred, ground, sanded, made whole, and the details are perfect, then it is sandblasted. Sandblasting removes burn marks and all of the imperfections. After consulting with the artist, the patina artist applies chemistry which will change the color of the gray metal. Patina is an art form all its own. It is a process of heat and water and chemistry. Every step of this process is amazing. It takes a crew of talented people to create a bronze sculpture from a clay sculpture. After 6 to 8 weeks of work by many hands, delivery day is here. A freestanding wall was built to accommodate the size and weight of a large bronze statue, measuring the backside where the nuts and bolts will attach it to the wall. Ah, the bird of liberty. This is very heavy work. To lift, level, and settle a large monument takes a crew of men. Almost finished, with liberty and justice for all. This 60-inch tall and 36-inch wide bas-relief bronze sculpture can be seen at the Washington County Justice Center, 100 West, 40 North in St. George, Utah.